we thought we would start by just thinking about what lessons we've learned about ourselves, about the kids, about work during the pandemic. And we'd really love for you to post, well, what lessons have you learned? What have you learned about yourself? And so, do you want to start?
Well, we started off before we got disconnected. I'm actually, one thing I discovered about myself that really surprised me, because when this all first started, I think a lot of us were a little panicked by it. We didn't know what to expect. I feel more rested than I think I've ever felt. So the only time that I've ever taken, this much time off, really for myself, is when I've been sick or had surgery. So this is the first time ever that I've ever been able to just take this kind of time, not by choice, but had to take this kind of time off, and I feel so rested. Yeah, I wouldn't choose to do it this way under these circumstances again, but I feel truly rested, and I'm not really bored. I'm busy around the house, and I discovered that there's many things about this that I like. Many things, of course, I wouldn't choose this way, but I want to figure out how to take the part of this that I like and continue it after the pandemic is over.
So you've learned that life was going too fast.
It was going too fast for me. And I didn't even know it.
It's really okay to slow it down.
Yeah. I didn't even realize it was going too fast, because I just thought that was normal. That's our life. That's how it goes. But I didn't realize until I was forced to slow down just how much I like the slower pace. So I'm like, wow, my body just feels regenerated.
What's the name of that song? Slow down, you move too fast.
Yeah.
You got to make the morning last.
Yeah. And I just feel like, wow, I
Simon
actually just
and
feel
Garfunkel,
good.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Slow down, you move too fast.
Who knew they were prophets, right?
So one of them for me is you just have to keep your frontal lobes healthy during this time. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not really thinking about brain health, you're going to manage your anxiety with alcohol, marijuana, bad food, and you're in the middle of a pandemic. You're in the middle of a pandemic, which means you need to make good decisions in order to do the best you can. And so keeping your frontal lobes healthy is more critical now than at any time I can ever remember, because it's the quality of your decisions that are going to keep you safe. It's the quality of your decisions, if you got laid off, that's going to help you get another job. It's the quality of the decisions you make that is going to help you not only survive, but possibly even thrive during this time.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I think, and we've seen people reacting very, very differently to this. Some people, even within our own family, we have, there are people who are homebodies, which I didn't even realize how much of a homebody I am. So I think that's why I'm thriving, right? Why I feel rested. But I've always known I was kind of an introvert, but not as much as I am. And there are other people who are not. We've got kids, some of our own kids, who are like, oh, get me out of here, because they don't like being stuck at home. And so for them, it's more stressful. So you need to sort of understand that. I agree with you. Find a coping mechanism, one that's healthy, because keeping your immunity strong right now is really important.
And your frontal lobes, because if your frontal lobes aren't strong, you're going to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
The next thing I learned is to have really a deep appreciation for planners, for people who planned for the end of the world, that I would...
I love this. I'm forever going to get credit.
Would often make fun of.
Oh, he made fun of me, and it annoyed him that I was always planning for, a crisis. Well, I call it crisis. And now you can
She's
actually
going to take
say,
our pool and put like a bomb shelter where the pool
I wanted to put a
was.
bunker in.
I'm like, we live in Newport Beach.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. We live in Newport Beach, and look, it didn't matter.
Well, we don't need a bomb shelter.
No, but we needed to be
I
prepared.
guess we had a viral
Being
bomb.
in Newport Beach did not protect us from coronavirus.
No, my mom and dad, as many of you know,
Thank you.
got COVID-19. Thankfully, we're negative. We got an antibody test for it.
So I didn't end up having to say I told you so because he said thank you. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
She's an I told you so sort of
I
person.
am, but I didn't have to. So yes, I was very prepared. One of the things that I really have appreciated about this, I don't know that we learned it, but I think it was reinforced and really crystallized for us, or for me during this time. The time with the kids, family time, has just been so precious and bonded us so much as a family. And just time doing, reading, playing games, just hanging out together. And I mean, doing things that I know we were so busy before we would not do. Doing Bible studies with the kids at home. And that just wouldn't happen. We were just too busy. So that's just time I can't ever get back. And I'm grateful for it. So, amidst all the things that we are all, stressed out about or upset about from this thing, that's one thing that I will always cherish.
Well, and I read a study that 80% of parents actually feel more connected to their children. Mm-hmm. Now, the other 20%, hopefully they'll come to one of our 8 clinics and we'll help them with that. I remember dealing with a dad and his hyperactive 6-year-old. And I'm like, why don't we just take April and let's fix the relationship with your son? I mean, what a great goal.
Yeah, it's a great time.
That would be. So when you have downtime, what are you going to do about it? What can you accomplish during this time? I mean, to actually get the gift of a month or 2 months, I think that you can do something special.
Right.
And it's just not going back to normal, even though Georgia opened up. Well, not really, because a lot of people
It's going to be
are
modified.
still staying home.
Well, I'm not sure things are, 9/11 changed the world, and this is bigger. So this is going to change the way we do things probably forever. It's going to change a lot of practices. So I think, if we just embrace that and go, okay, it's going to change things. So we're going to have to just sort of figure out a new normal through all of this. And it's frustrating figuring out what that's going to be. But in the meantime, how can we at least take advantage of this time that we have?
You see this? Good job, Tana. Seems like one or the other partner is usually not on board with being prepared.
Oh yeah, he used to get so frustrated. He's like, we live in Newport Beach, we live in a gated community. I spend all this time, making a living, and you're spending it on preparing for disasters. I don't understand. I'm saying nothing.
This is not a therapy
I'm
session.
not. I'm saying
It's not
nothing.
a therapy session. Another thing that I learned, being the CEO at Amen Clinics, is communicate, that I actually cannot over communicate, that talking and supporting our staff, also the children, is just absolutely essential. So communicating, not expecting them to know what I'm thinking, but actually share it, what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, as an organization, we've done really well, because the next pandemic that's going to happen is mental health pandemic.
And we're always going to have, I love the question we've been asking people, where were you when the world ended? And, for some people...
When the world stopped.
When the world stopped, sorry. When the world stopped. And for some people, this was the first time they felt that. Like Chloe, that was the first time she felt that. Our 16-year-old, it's the first time she's ever experienced something like that. And it's a great question, but for me, it wasn't the first time I felt like the world stopped. Right? For our nieces, it wasn't the first time. So for me, it was like, okay, kick into gear. I've felt this feeling before. Crisis. For me, that's crisis. It's global. This was bigger than before, but it's still that
But not bigger for you personally.
No,
Like when you
wanting
had
to
cancer,
die is pretty big.
When you had cancer,
No,
that
depression.
felt like,
No, this wasn't as bad as depression. Depression, like serious, real depression, wanting to die is the worst thing I think anyone personally, it was just the worst thing I've ever imagined. So, yeah, so this isn't worse than that as far as like the only thing now I just kick into gear. What can I do to move forward? So we're going to experience times in life where we feel like the world is stopping. And so do you kick into gear or do you just become paralyzed and crumble?
well, and when you are paralyzed, what we learn is you just have to do something.
Right.
Move a muscle, shake it off, do something that helps you.
In fact, in martial arts, we do deep breathing exercises, move your eyes from side to side, and you got, like you said, actually like move your body so that you don't freeze.
Because anxiety causes a lot of people to freeze. I've treated many people over the years that had something called agoraphobia, which means fear of the marketplace, but they would actually not leave their house for sometimes even decades.
Right.
What else is on your list about
So
things you've
cooking
learned?
more. Yeah. So we eating healthy is a big value, is a huge one of our values. And so, but being busy, we would figure out how to plan and how are we going to eat healthy, and we would figure it out, which has been a strategy. It's been one of the things I've built sort of my career on, is teaching people how to do it when they're busy. But what I discovered is I like the slower pace. I like cooking more for my family, and I never thought I would say that. So contrary to popular belief, after 8, 9 cookbooks, I never really liked to cook. And part of that is because I just didn't have time. So I've discovered that with this more time and feeling rested, I enjoy this time of cooking healthy and planning meals. So that's one thing I want to figure out how to maintain and keep doing, because
Actually, for those of you that don't know, this is my favorite of Tana's books, called The Brain Warrior's Way Cookbook, and it's awesome. Somebody asked what's the name of the book, and I discovered that I really like it when she cooks, and
well, it's one of the reasons I like doing it,
and
because
I
he's so
actually
happy.
like doing the dishes
Yeah, he does
with
the dishes.
everybody.
Yeah.
And, early on in the pandemic, I'm like, no, you guys don't get to leave until all the dishes are done and everything's put away. And we do it as a family. And that family exercise, there's so many good conversations.
I think that's
that
why I like
happen.
it.
And it goes a lot faster than if one person is tasked with doing it. So getting everybody involved except the cook. The cook chooses. They want to help clean up or they don't. The cook chooses. And, during this time, I've learned how to brine fish.
I know. You've actually been a really good cook through this.
And I made my first rub for a tri-tip that we barbecued. I made my first rub from scratch. I was so proud of myself. And I like that. And, people like it when they're competent at things. And when I married her, she couldn't cook. No, I prayed she wouldn't cook because there'd be like a bomb that went off in the kitchen. And I'm like, do you mind if I just pick something up?
Oh, dear.
But, in your attempt to get healthy, you not only discovered that you're really good at it and you can take really healthy food and make it taste awesome, but, you're teaching, and I love this. Another lesson that I learned is because she's in the kitchen doing it, our 16-year-old, she
takes one night a week. Yeah, she takes a night a week.
Our
and cooks
15-year-old
dinner.
now has a night a week. The 10-year-old is in there helping her all the time. And the girls would have never had this much time learning how to cook, which is going to serve them and their families for the rest of their lives.
It's become part of our family culture, if you will. So rather than being busy and just figuring out what are we going to eat that's pretty healthy, it's like, no, it's become this fun, joyful family culture thing. And part of why I love doing it is because the time we have together, but also I love how happy you are when I do it. You like go on and on and on. And then, you do the dishes. So that makes it really nice. But yeah, seeing the girls take a night a week to make dinner, that's just not something that would have happened before. They were too busy. Teenagers are busy. And so it's just been so great. I love it. Yeah. So that's been another one. That's one of mine. Do you have another one?
Think now and later, not just now. So I have been telling my team, we have to think like it's a war, because it is. It's a war against the virus. It's also a war against depression and fear, but also think of being a gardener. And if it's winter, I mean, I know it's spring, but if it's winter, because in many ways it's winter for people where they're out of work or they're at home, it's like, well, what does a gardener do during winter? They don't take winter off. They're pruning, they're planting, they're fertilizing, they're taking care of what's going to grow next season. And so pruning the lives that we really don't need, and organizing. Almost all the rooms in this house are now really organized. I like that. But what is it in your life that you could prune?
Right. We've done a lot.
Are the negative people that really are not serving you, that whenever they call, they never ask how you are. They're only telling you their problems. So it's not a two-way relationship. You know, are there relationships to prune? Are there things you're doing that you can prune? And pruning is really important. The brain does that. You know, the brain gets rid of nerve cells it
You don't
doesn't use.
right.
If you don't use it, you lose it. But what can you prune from your life?
No, I like that.
So Heather says she would love to be able to garden, but my thumb is black. And
I'm one of those people.
but what I think when I read that is you never got good preparation on
Yeah, and
how
you
to
were never
be
taught.
a gardener.
Yeah.
And so often I remember
Because I couldn't cook. And I used the excuse, I don't have that. It's just not my ability. I was never given that gift.
Right.
And now I've written 9
And what it
cookbooks.
means is you didn't have the prerequisite.
Right, but I learned
so
that
maybe
when
you
I-
didn't have someone to show you how. And the best example from my life is when I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, I wasn't that smart in high school. And when I went to college and I decided, and I took college chemistry, I was completely lost, just completely lost. And so I took a dumbbell chemistry class, like super basic, because I didn't have the foundation. But once I got the foundation, chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, it was all fine because I went into it without the right foundation. So if you just took classes, your black thumb
Right.
will turn green. You just have to get the prerequisites.
Well, and I really like what you're saying about pruning, because I think this is also a really good time. I've heard a lot of people talking about how this is we have no choice. I mean, people are, they're not working, which for a lot of people has been really hard. It's tragic, actually. And because there's no other choice, we can focus on that, obviously we have to focus on getting back to work. I mean, people have to work and they've got to take care of their families, but you can also use it as a time to be creative. For those of you who haven't been happy in the career you were in, or you can't go back to doing it the way you were doing it, maybe it's a time to use it as like, okay, how do I be creative? This creative destruction. It's not going to go back to the way it was. What can I maybe do to be happier in what I was doing, or go along with the change and figure out a way to capitalize on it, to make it work, maybe even better going forward. Because the people who do are going to be the ones that come out of this thing being the most successful. Whether you like it or not, that's how it's going to go. So maybe this time, if you're rested, you can start focusing on how do I move forward with it in a way to make it work for me and my family, and be happy doing it, and use my creativity and prune away the things that weren't working, if that makes sense.
Well, and you brought up a term maybe a lot of people haven't heard before called creative destruction. It was actually the first time I heard it was from Alan Greenspan, who used to be the Fed chairman, and it's when the economy went through a really hard time. Well, there's going to be a lot of creative destruction now as some industries really get hit hard. Others are going to grow.
Right.
And so it's incumbent upon all of us to know, well, what are the new trends going to be, like online? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, us talking to you on a more regular basis. It's good for you, but it's also good for us. It helps us get our message of hope and healing out to the world. And so I want you to be thinking during this time, what are you learning?
Yeah.
What is life teaching you now that you can take? You are living in a historic time.
Yeah. One of the last things I want to leave people with, and one of the things that I've been doing, because we often teach people to challenge their thoughts, right? It's a big thing we do. You know, we teach you to challenge your thoughts. And so I think during this time, it's become a very personal thing. It's become so personal to me because one of the things I think that I used to think is, well, this is just the way life is. It's busy. I didn't even know that I wanted it to be different, I don't think. And I didn't realize it until I had this time to sort of reflect and go, wait, I like a slower pace. This is working for me. And then my first thought after that was, well, but I can't do that. Once we go back to normal, it's going to go back to the way. And then I went, wait, no.
Who's
is
in
that
charge?
true? Is that true? Or can I find a way to design it? So the second you crack that thought, is it true? Is it possible? Maybe some things have to go back to the way they were, right? Kids got to go to school eventually, you know, things like that. Got to, you know, pay the bills. But can I be creative and just start planting those seeds? Challenge your thoughts. So I'm actually a pretty competent person. I have faith that if I'm really focused on something, I usually find a way to make it happen. So if I start planting those seeds, like, is that true? Or can I find a way to make this, you know, take the things that I like from this time and bring them with me?
I love that.
Yeah.
So write down your questions, write down what
have you learned? And what do you like from this time? Not just the things you don't like. And the last thing, Dr. Gordon, we talked to Dr. Gordon today and it was amazing. One thing I really liked that he said, don't shy away from grieving the losses of this time, because accept it so that you can move on. Most of us have lost something.
But don't stay there.
No. And then move on to the things that you can appreciate.
What can you do to make your life better?